Welcome to the C-Suite series presented by Channel Check and Noble Capital Markets. Noble's an SEC-registered, FINRA-licensed broker-dealer and the source of the equity research available on Channel Check. Today's interview features LithiumBank Resources, OTCQX ticker symbol LBNKF, TSX.V ticker symbol LBNK. Noble Senior Research Analyst Mark Reichman interviews LithiumBank Chairman and CEO Robert Shewchuk. Visit channelcheck.com or click the link in the description to access equity research, news, and advanced market data on LithiumBank, all at no cost. And now, here's Mark and Rob.
Rob, would you please explain to our viewers in the simplest of terms what your company does?
Sure. LithiumBank is a direct brine lithium exploration and development company. Our focus is on bringing battery-grade lithium hydroxide supply to the North American battery market. We do that from lithium-bearing confined leduc carbonate reef structures that have been prolific for oil and gas production for decades in Western Canada. In simpler terms, the way I would say it is that our company takes these big reef structures where oil and gas operators produce their products from the top of these pinnacle structures in the reef, but we take the massive underground ocean of brine that's below that, which contains lithium, and we flow that brine to surface where we strip the lithium from the brine and then we make a product out of it. And that's a product that battery makers buy from us, and then they put it into batteries that power cars, buses, any number of other battery-powered devices. And then we pump that remaining brine void of just the lithium, so everything else is still in it, right back down into the reservoir that it came from, using the smallest footprint and in the most environmentally green and sustainable way that I think you could imagine for producing a resource of any kind.
And would you please share a little about your background and the genesis of LithiumBank Resources?
Sure. I spent 27 years in the capital markets as a stock trader, then a broker, managing director, and chairman across a number of national footprint brokerage firms in Canada. In 2019, the founders of LithiumBank and I saw what was sort of cratering lithium prices at that time occurring, and we saw it as a once-in-a-career opportunity to bring a group of visionary investors together that were patient capital to consolidate the best Western Canadian confined leduc carbonate reef assets into one company that we branded LithiumBank. And I'm very proud to say that 4 years later, LithiumBank now holds over 4 million acres of some of the most prospective leduc reef direct brine lithium assets in the world. For a sense of scale, that's more acreage than if you owned, all the acreage of the entire state of Connecticut, or 3 times the size of Prince Edward Island if you want something for a Canadian comparison.
And how do other members of your executive team and board complement your leadership?
We have a very flat structure at LithiumBank. Having some of the most talented people in their respective disciplines that we have, like Kevin, John, Corey, Ann, Leo, Tyson, allows me to give them full authority over their mandates. My job really is to create and oversee processes that ensure that everybody's kind of rowing together in sync and towards the desired endpoint and timing, which is driven by our incredibly experienced board of directors that I have the pleasure to report to. They're highly engaged with every facet of our business plan.
Well, you've already touched on it. Would you explain your means for producing lithium concentrate and the direct lithium extraction process to produce a battery-grade lithium product?
Sure. We propose to produce a battery quality lithium hydroxide. So by flowing brine from the Leduc Formation via a number of production wells and production pads, that brine comes out of the ground. It passes through a separator to remove any oil, gas, and organics. The brine then flows into an ion exchange set of tanks where we introduce a resin bead that's highly selective for lithium. We license that DLE technology from technology providers to upgrade our lithium grade from around 73 to over 4,000 milligrams. The spent brine that is now lithium depleted is then pumped back down into the reservoir where it came from to recharge that system. The lithium enriched brine then moves through a reverse osmosis process similar to what you might find in your home water system, but at a commercial scale, to further upgrade the brine to say over 2%. And then we go through the conventional DLE back-end steps of polishing, electrolysis, crystallization, that ultimately create a lithium hydroxide product that we intend to sell via offtake agreements to battery manufacturers.
Now, what gives you confidence that you can do it?
Most of our contemplated process isn't new. In fact, the back end of our process is used every day in many industries, and even the front end DLE ion exchange that we talked about, it's being used in some form or another for decades. The uranium business, other mining and processing industries. What little of the process that is new has also been decades in R&D in the making, and a lot of people call this the last mile, but to us it's the last 50 meters, and that work's being done by some of the most talented and innovative engineers and scientists all over the world. We expect that work to culminate in the world's first direct brine lithium production at commercial scale in 2023 by one or more than one of our direct comparables. And I think that once they prove to the world that they can do this, people will better understand our confidence with regard to using very similar equipment and processes to achieve similar commercial outcomes of our own by 2026.
Now, over 1,100 wells exist on LithiumBank's claims. What is unique about the reservoirs that underpin your claims that make them well suited to lithium production?
What's unique about our reservoirs is an important combination of what I'd like to call four factors. Factor number one being size, and this is in no particular order because they're all extremely important. Size is important. Our model is looking for confined structures in the order of magnitude of between, say, 3 and 7 million tons, 3 being large enough to produce an attractive enough commercial scale for decades, and 7 being large enough to accommodate even more scalable, potentially multi-facility opportunity. But not so big, it inherently brings with it, it's things such as faulting and other operational or permitting risks inherent with larger footprints. Number two is grade. Our model targets grade over 70 milligrams, which is comparable to the grade of any other PEA project in the Leduc or in Western Canada. Deliverability would be the next item. This one's super important. It's not enough to just have a large asset with grade if you can't produce it at scale. The higher the deliverability of the formation, the greater the flow rates, and therefore the fewer the wells. Means it's a CapEx and OpEx thing. So you want to have as few wells as possible. And then the last one I would call is permittability, if that's even an English word. The ability to permit, let's call it. An area where a project has been permitted for oil and gas extraction is a fast track for permitting and construction timelines by leveraging the billions of dollars of infrastructure already in place. And we have that in spades at LithiumBank. That process is hyper accelerated where you have fewer oil and gas operators producing wells and other leaseholders to coordinate with, as is the case at our Boardwalk asset where we own 100% of the leases and only have one oil and gas operator in the reef and 0 producing wells to contend with in our process of commercialization.
Starting with Boardwalk, what are your immediate goals and how do you see the resource evolving?
Our immediate goal for Boardwalk is to publish a preliminary economic assessment, or what's known as a PEA, in the next 30 to 60 days, followed by some drilling that we'll have to do in 2023 to move inferred resources into the category of measured and indicated, as well as a pilot plant work that will culminate in a pre-feasibility study. We hope to complete that by the end of 2023. Our Park Place and Kindersley projects will get to ride on the coattails of the work that we've done at Boardwalk. We expect to complete PEAs for those, let's say Q2 2023, and PFSs within 12 months thereafter on both of those projects.
Now, when do you think commercial production could commence?
We think commercial production could commence in 2026 and perhaps sooner with the right commercial partners, which we'll be seeking to partner Boardwalk and Park Place with in 2023.
Now, should investors think of these as discrete projects or as a consolidated package, that being, Boardwalk, Park Place, and Kindersley?
I think our package of acreage should be considered the largest portfolio of discrete direct brine lithium projects ever assembled, to my knowledge, and possibly that will ever be assembled in Western Canada, given that the Alberta Energy Regulator is taking over for all things lithium in 2023. And all the claims going forward won't be stakeable like the way that we did the majority of our work over the last 3 years. They're going to go to auction, which we imagine will fractionalize holdings and attract increased competition for much larger competitors and increase pricing for the claims. That given recent auction results in Saskatchewan, even as recent as a couple of weeks ago, at over $100 a hectare. When you think about that, that could already value our current holdings at over $180 million Canadian, which is more than 5 times what our current market cap is.
And what are your funding needs for 2023?
We currently have cash on hand of over $3 million, which should cover our plans for fiscal 2023. That said, our peers have all benefited significantly in valuation with the publication of a PEA, which we intend to do in the next 30 to 60 days. And with the right re-rating of our share price, we will, no doubt, weigh the benefits of accelerating the progression of our broader portfolio by taking on additional funding, of course, versus the relative dilution required to do so to our current shareholders.
So what differentiates LithiumBank Resources within the lithium space, and why is now a good time to invest?
We think what differentiates LithiumBank is the number of prospective assets in our portfolio, where any one of those could be a company making flagship asset for another company. We think as we de-risk these assets, it will attract large commercial partners that can fast track these assets to production. I think the relatively short timeline to development and commercialization of multiple assets in our vast portfolio, we think makes now probably a great time to own shares of LithiumBank.
Thank you for joining us for this C-Suite interview presentation brought to you by Channel Check. View our YouTube channel for more video content, including C-Suite interviews, virtual roadshows, and conference presentation replays. New content is added regularly, so subscribe below to stay up to date. Visit channelcheck.com or click the link in the description to access equity research, news, and advanced market data on this and the 6,000 other small and micro-cap companies listed.